Hi folks, you're with Tacitus today at your Pushback channel, and thank you for joining this live stream. In this essay, I'd like to talk about mass migration. It's never far from the news and far from the minds of anyone who lives in the West, certainly white people. As you're probably aware, the COVID situation has reduced, or until recently at least, reduced the amount of mass migration that was going on. You still see masses of people, especially since Biden or the globalists installed Biden in the White House. You've seen the mass migration coming across the southern US border. And you've also seen the ease with which illegal immigrants can stream into Britain, all aided and abetted by the European Union and the globalist flunkies and the NGOs that are part of the globalist network. Australia's a little bit tough. Australia's borders have been closed because of the COVID, and it's much harder to get to Australia. It's quite a long boat journey, and the people smugglers have somewhat given up, given that the Australian government's quite determined, or was at least, to push boats back that were coming here illegally. So, the globalists are now leaning on the Australian government and the state governments and the various regional sort of governments and all the institutions are leaning on them to engage in a very substantial increase in migration starting next year. They want somewhere around 400,000 plus of net migration. Now, net migration means that some people are leaving the country, they come on work visas and stay for a while, then go back to wherever, that sort of thing. Those things happen. So when they say net migration of 400,000, that means something like 500,000 have to come in every year to the country to achieve a net migration of 400,000. Now, the population of Australia is not quite 26 million. So when you bring in 500,000 people into that, all of them will be from brown and black, dirt poor basket case countries. They won't speak English. They've got totally distant customs, different religion. They don't integrate. They'll go into ghettos. So it's hardly a desirable situation from any perspective. But nonetheless, the globalists are leaning on the Australian government to do it. I don't think they have to lean on them very hard. I'm sure that these people are very well looked after. Their sons and daughters and relatives and mistresses are given very, very well-paid jobs and prestigious jobs. Lots of first-class travel to Paris, or maybe not Paris anymore, but to exotic locations. So I don't know if the globalists have to lean so hard. Western politicians, white politicians that we elect, are falling over themselves. They're gagging to fillet any globalist they can get their hands on, and to please them and to suck up to them and do whatever they want. So I'm sure it'll happen, but we can hope not, but I'm sure it will. So if you just look at the sort of numbers, that's going to be, over the next 10 years, that'll increase Australia's population by, or pushing with the natural birth rate, about 30% in 10 years. I don't know, you tell me any society that can grow by a population of that amount in 10 years and not do it without very serious infrastructure problems. The things ranging from energy supply, water supply. Now, at the same time as they want the population to be increased so heavily, they're also leaning on the government to stop all fossil fuel related. So we've got electric cars. There'll be there's only be a so-called green energy, which is heavily subsidised by taxpayer money, which flows into the pockets of the already very wealthy, by the way. So there's some huge infrastructure issues, the schools that are going to be needed, the hospitals. The list just goes on and on. So it's going to be a diabolical. The quality of life for the white people here is going to just fall through the floor with all this going in. I mean, it wouldn't matter so much if they insisted on people had to have good English. They had to have skills that really were needed. They had to have qualifications that are recognised. These sorts of things. Then it wouldn't matter so much. But there aren't. You can't just make 500,000 jobs appear in 12 months and have people slotting into them. At least 90% of these people will speak either not a word of or effectively no English. Very few, maybe 4 or 5% will have relevant qualifications that may be needed in the economy, and the rest are going to be just just dead wood. They're not needed. They're not wanted. There's no place for them here. They're just to dilute the white population. That's all they're coming for. And that's the only reason the globalists want them, to dilute the white population. So anyway, but I'm surprised how many white people are okay with the migration until you ask them to give up something. They're all right if someone else has to give up something, that's fine. So just talking to a white lady today, and she's, no, migration's fine. There's nothing wrong with people coming over wanting a better life. Hey, that's fine. Hey, it's some good people can come from migration. Hey, I don't doubt it. And in the days when all the migration was white and all the people had qualifications that were internationally recognised, and in areas of the economy where there was a big demand, sure, I've got no problem with that. Nobody should. Any migrants that come that have something that the local economy needs, and they've got the skills and qualifications, they want to assimilate and integrate and make Australia their home, no problem at all. Anyone's welcome for that. People who want to come and form their ghettos and live their own customs and habits, refuse to integrate, even after 40, 50 years in the country, they still barely speak a word of English, that sort of thing. I don't think that's helpful. I really don't think that's anything to offer. And particularly given the globalists, the cynical globalists, are only doing it to dilute the white population, not because these people or their skills or their work or qualifications are needed, because they're not. But coming back to this woman, she's fine. Oh, no, there's nothing wrong with that. Why can't we have more? So saying, well, 500,000 a year, no, that's okay. What's wrong with that? That seems all right. All right, then fine. Will you give up your job for a migrant? Oh, no, no. Why should I give anything? Will you give up your house to one of these migrants? No, well, why don't you put a migrant up in your house? Oh, no, that's not happening. What about your kids? Why don't they give up their place in school for some migrant kids or something? Oh, no, I don't want that. So really, migration is wonderful and fine, provided there are no sacrifices for her or her family or any of the comforts she has. As long as other people have to give up things, then that's okay with her, but as long as she doesn't have to give anything up. And you see this with college kids when they say, well, socialism's great and so on. And you say, all right, then, well, why don't you give up your place at university for someone who's not as well? Oh, no, I'm not doing that. Well, why don't you give up your part-time job to no, I can't do that. No. So again, you come at all this socialism, mass migration, all these socialistic things are all wonderful, provided it's other people who have to suffer the consequences of it. As soon as they have to suffer the consequences or any consequences or even the risk of consequences, then suddenly migration is not a good thing anymore. So that just goes to show the self-serving nature of some of it. Similarly with well-to-do people, who don't have to put up with any migrants. There's no migrants in their places, the luxury, waterfront, tree-lined street type houses that they live in. So to them, it's a problem that's far away. Now, if they had people who don't speak English running riot down the street and defecating in the gutters and all that sort of thing, then I'm sure they think differently, but they don't have that. They live in very well-to-do, very clean, tidy, safe, quiet neighbourhoods, and they've got no problem with these migrants that other suburbs and other people and poorer people have to deal with. On the other side of it, some of these people think, well, the white working class people are so vulgar and they live such brutish lives anyway. Who cares if they live a brutish life with white people around them or black people around them? It doesn't matter. So they've got a sneering contempt for the lower working class, and that certainly comes across. So that's the thinking, but that's the mass migration. Now, if the globalists are pushing that here in Australia, that means they're pushing it everywhere. They don't just pick one white country to do it to. They'll be pushing it. So the globalists obviously want another huge wave of mass brown and black peasant migration to head into the West, again, for the sole purpose of diluting the white population. So that a recent poll in Australia had that over 80% of the population don't want a return to the mass migration days. And almost a third of the people want zero. We don't need any more. Some people, the majority say, well, people with skills who speak English are are okay. They're welcome. Skills are needed in the economy, and I agree with that. By the way, I'm happy with that. But if you're looking at skilled people that speak English that really got something that the economy needs in terms of skills, qualifications, expertise, then I doubt you'd get more than 25, 30,000 a year in the whole of Australia. I don't, maybe let's be really generous, say 50,000 a year, but that'd be it. You wouldn't get any more if you have that criteria. So the fact that they can bring in 500,000 shows that they're not applying any criteria. Anyone who's upright and warm is allowed through. They're not picking qualified people. That's bullshit. What sort of qualification that some illiterate peasant who claims to have a degree from Ouagadougou or something, well, what's that? That's not a qualification. And so really, at best, you'd get 50,000, and more than half of them would be white people. So easily more than half of them would be white people. So really, you just wouldn't have a large pool of people coming in if you rigorously applied skills, qualifications, and language. So, but they're not going to do that, and the globalists want it, and our white politicians go down like sacks of shit as soon as the globalists say they want something. There's not even a pushback, even though the local population in Australia don't want it. And there was a time when our politicians represented the people. Those days are long gone. All Western governments are owned by the globalists, and they do their bidding and do what they're told when the globalists tell them to, and that's where things are at. You've been with Tasteless today, your Pushback channel, and thank you for joining us.